मैं जब 1981 में एमए फाइनल में था तो उस वक्त हमारे जो टीचर्स हैं सुरेश शर्मा, उन्होंने पहली बार इस ग्रामीण परिवेश के अंदर एक टेराकोटा वर्कशॉप लगाया। वहाँ पे इंडिया के जो चयनित आर्टिस्ट थे उनको इनवाइट करके और 3 डेज का वर्कशॉप किया। हम स्टूडेंट्स थे, हम लोग भी यहाँ आए, देखा मोलेला में। तो हमें लगा यार कि मिट्टी में तो बहुत संभावना है, और ये ज्योति भाई और ये दिल्ली वाले आर्टिस्ट हुए तो हमारे शर्मा जी बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। मैं पेंटिंग आदमी हूँ, ग्राफिक किया, पेंटिंग किया, लेकिन मुझे लगा कि ये मीडियम मेरे लिए ज़्यादा सूटेबल है। फिर पहली बार जहाँ कैंप में आया तो फिर कुमार से बात करके गया मैं। दिन जैसे मुझे छुट्टी हुई उसके बाद मैं सीधा मोलेला गया। उस ज़माने में बसें नहीं आती थी, मैं साइकिल लेके आता था और वापस 2 दिन बाद साइकिल लेके चला जाता था। और मोलेला का जो सबसे बड़ा प्लस पॉइंट ये मुझे लगा कि यहाँ इस एनवायरनमेंट के अंदर आदमी बैठ के बहुत कुछ काम कर सकता है, खासतौर से क्रिएटिव आदमी के लिए, क्योंकि यहाँ का जो एनवायरनमेंट है, ट्रेडिशनल पोटरी है, ट्रेडिशनल टेराकोटास हैं, उसके साथ में अपनी जो नई थिंकिंग है, नई चीज़ें हैं, उसको आप आराम से उसको प्ले कर सकते हैं। और इसके बाद मुझे लगा कि मोलेला की मिट्टी में जो दम है वो शायद दूसरी मिट्टी में भी हो सकता है। देन उसके बाद मेरा नेचर बन गया कि मैं हर कहीं आसपास गांव में घूमता रहता हूँ। हाँ, जैसे मैं गोकुंदा गया, एक भीलवाड़ा के पास गणेशपुरा गांव है, वहाँ गया, इधर आपके नागौर में गया, पिंडवाड़ा गया, पोखरण गया, नागौर गया, तो इससे इधर कोटा के पास में ठिकरदा गाँव वहाँ गया। तो इससे मुझे लगा कि हर 150 किलोमीटर के अंदर अगर मैं फाइंड करूं तो क्ले की क्वालिटी और मोटिव का डिज़ाइन, जो वो पोट्री बनाते हैं जो भी है, और उसको पकाने का तरीका, इन तीनों में कहीं न कहीं फ़र्क है। और इसी आधार पर फिर मैंने अलग अलग जगह जाके इन कुमारों के साथ ही वहीं उनके वर्कशॉप में काम किया, वहीं फायर किया और वहीं का रिजल्ट देखा। मुझे लगा कि हाँ ये ठीक है। देन मैं वहाँ से अपनी क्ले कलेक्ट करके और अपने स्टूडियो को ले आता हूँ। और मुझे लगता है कि सबसे अच्छी अगर क्ले है जो मैंने अभी तक यूज़ की है वो है पोखरण की और गोविंदा की। ओके, वेरी नाइस, बहुत अच्छी क्ले है। उनको पकाने का तरीका भी अपने आप में यूनिक है। और जनरली टेम्परेचर ये 600-700 पकाते हैं, लेकिन मेरा जो नेचर है, मैं जो अपना आर्ट वर्क करता हूँ उसके अंदर मैं 1000 से ऊपर भी ले जाता हूँ सेंटीग्रेड्स में। और एक आध मैं क्या कि बाई नेचर एक्सपेरिमेंट करने का थोड़ा वो रखता हूँ। मैंने एक ये भी देखा कि एक बार फायर करने के बाद क्या उसको दूसरी बार फायर किया जा सकता है। एंड द पोटर सेड नो 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 गगन, ये डिस्टर्ब हो जाएगा, खराब हो जाएगा, टूट जाएगा। मैं ओके, मुझे करना चाहिए, किया। मुझे लगा कि वो डेंट हो सकता है, वो डेंट हुआ, द कलर्स विल बी चेंज, मुझे वो चाहिए था। लेकिन ये कैसे हुआ, क्या क्या चीज़ डालने से हुआ, कहाँ कौन सा फ्लेम ज़्यादा डालने से हुआ, इस चीज़ का मैंने पूरा स्टडी किया। और उसके आधार पर मैंने अभी 2-3 साल से जो काम कर रहा हूँ, चपाती पेन है, गेट्स हैं, वाटर पॉट्स हैं, ये आटा बनाने की जो पराते होती है वो है, उन सब के अंदर मैं ड्राइंग्स करके उसको 4 या 5 बार फायर करता हूँ। 4-5 टाइम्स। एक बार कलर किया, फायर किया, दूसरी बार कलर किया, वापस फायर किया, तीसरी बार कलर किया, वापस फायर किया। तो मुझे लगता है कितने आर्टिस्ट पेंटिंग के ऊपर भी अपनी ग्लेजिंग करते हैं या अलग अलग चीज़ करते हैं। हाँ, तो वो करीब करीब पोट्री में भी ये होता है। ये मेरा वो उसमें रहा। और बोले तो आप ये देखो कि ये जो गांव है, इस गांव में सबसे बड़ी खासियत है कि एक प्लेट के ऊपर जो ये रिलीफ में काम करते हैं, या ऑल ओवर इंडिया में करीब कहीं नहीं होता। और यहाँ के जो मूर्ति बनाते हैं जिसको ये हिंगाण बोलते हैं, हिंगाण, इसको लेने के लिए गुजरात, राजस्थान और एमपी तीनों बॉर्डर के जो ट्राइबल पीपल्स हैं, वो ट्राइबल पीपल्स यहाँ आते हैं पर्टिकुलर 1 महीने के अंदर आके उसी विधि विधान से या जो भी उनकी परंपरा है आएंगे, पोटर्स के रुकेंगे, रात भर रुकेंगे, भजन गाएंगे, मूर्ति चयन करेंगे। फिर इस बीच में वो जो पोटर है वो उस मूर्ति को पेंट करता है। उसके बाद वो दूसरे दिन सलीके से व्हाइट कपड़ा लपेट के माथे में लगा के उसको ले जाते हैं। तो ये ट्रेडिशनल यहाँ का इतना ज़्यादा गहरा है कि अगर अपन यूँ इस सोशल एस्पेक्ट से भी देखें तो आपको लगता है कि यार ये इनकी जड़ें तो बहुत गहरी है, पोटर्स की एंड भोपास की।
इतने सालों में मोलेला में आर्ट टेक्निक्स में कोई फर्क है? ये लोकल यहाँ के जो है उनकी टेक्निक्स में कोई फर्क है
ना? एक जहाँ तक मैं सोचता था कि फ़र्क आएगा, लेकिन जो फ़र्क आना चाहिए तो वो नहीं आया, और एक नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट में आया।
ओके,
जैसे मैं जब यहाँ आया तो ये लोग वाटर कलर, अर्थ कलर से पेंट करते थे। एक पर्टिकुलर लोकल ग्लेज होती है उसको ऊपर लगाते थे, उसी से टेक्निकल चीज़ें थी। लेकिन शायद अभी एक तो मटेरियलिस्टिक लाइफ है, कोई आदमी लेबर भी नहीं करना चाहता है। आजकल पिछले 4-5 साल से इन लोगों ने जो प्योरली एनामल ऑयल पेंट होते हैं उससे पेंट करना शुरू कर दिया। उससे पेंट करना शुरू करती है। तो जबकि वाटर कलर की जो खुशबू होती है या एक आग होती है वो उसमें दिखाई नहीं देती है। तो फास्ट लाइफ, पैसा ज़्यादा कमाना, तो जहाँ तक मैं सोचता हूँ उनके साथ टेक्निकल डेवलपमेंट होगा, थोड़ा बहुत डेवलपमेंट हुआ, लेकिन जो कलर या दूसरी चीज़ें उनके अंदर दे आर लिटिल केयरलेस।
जो ट्रेडिशन था वो पूरा
करे पर नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट में जा रहा है। सबसे बड़ी बात तो कि जिस मीडियम को आप पहले प्ले करते थे वाटर कलर को, उसकी जगह आपने बिल्कुल उसके ऊपर ऑयल पेंट करना शुरू कर दिया। जबकि अपन जानते हैं कि टेराकोटा के ऊपर ऑयल पेंट स्टिक होता ही नहीं, स्टिक होता ही नहीं। ठीक है, 2-4 साल रह जाएगा, लेकिन उसका बेस ही नहीं होता है। टेराकोटा में हमेशा या तो अर्थ कलर्स जाएंगे और या सेरेमिक कलर्स जाते हैं, वो जाते हैं।
और एक तो उसका पूरा जो फील है ऑयल पेंट में, तो पूरा जैसे किसी भी पेंट कर दो वो सेम लगेगा, वो
वैसे लगेगा। उसकी जो मिट्टी की जो क्वालिटी है ना, अगर जो वाटर कलर करते हैं यहाँ के लोग, जो अर्थ कलर करते हैं, उसमें मिट्टी की क्वालिटी, उसकी जो सरफेस है वो भी आपको फीलिंग होती है। तो जैसे उन्होंने ऑयल पेंट किया, इट्स लाइक ए ब्लैक, तो बड़ा चमकीला, बड़ा वैसा। गेम जो यहाँ आयोजित करता हूँ, एक्चुअली क्या हुआ कि मेरे दोस्त लोग सभी आर्ट से जुड़े हुए हैं, क्योंकि आर्ट के आदमी हूँ मैं। तो मुझे लगा यार कि मोलेला के प्रति या टेराकोटा के प्रति इतना ज़्यादा अट्रैक्शन या लगाव नहीं है इस मीडियम के प्रति। लोग सोचते हैं टूट जाता है, ये हो जाता है, पता नहीं क्या क्या हो जाता है। तो क्यों नहीं अपन एक ऐसे कैंप आयोजित करूँ मैं, ताकि उन सबको बुलाऊँ, ये वो यहाँ वर्क करें और उनको पता लगे यार कि ये भी एक ऐसा मीडियम है जिसके अंदर बहुत सी संभावनाएं हैं। काम शुरू करने से लेकर फायरिंग तक, आप फायरिंग में भी इतनी टेक्निक यूज़ कर सकते हो जो रिजल्ट चाहो। जैसे 2 दिन पहले वो उसने ओबेरा फायरिंग का बताया, तो मैनी टेक्निक्स, तो इसका सबसे बड़ा चीज़ हुआ।
और हर रीजन में अलग है,
अलग अलग। तो मेरा ये था कि आर्टिस्ट लोगों को बुलाऊंगा, मे बी दे आर नॉट रिलेटेड टू द सेरेमिक और पेंटिंग पोटरी, लेकिन अगर पेंटर भी है तो उसके लिए मीडियम चेंज हो जाएगा। तो आई जस्ट कॉल। और तो पिछले 7-8 साल से मैं करीब हर साल एक छोटा मोटा कैंप अपने लेवल पर करता ही हूँ। कभी 10 आ गए, कभी 5 आ गए, सराउंडिंग फ्रेंड्स, दे जस्ट माई हैंड्स। तो ये काम मैं करता हूँ इस बार स्पेशली, क्योंकि वो वहाँ से ऑफर था अपने पास कि बेलारूस की टेक्निक को जेरम जो आइलैंड से आई हुई है वो यहाँ डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करेगी। तो उसके लिए मैंने सोचा कि यहाँ के लोकल पोर्टर्स को भी इसका मजा आएगा और जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स काम करें उनको भी मजा आएगा। और मेरे लिए व्यक्तिगत तो खैर बेनिफिट है ही है, लेकिन एक ये थीम थी कि वर्कशॉप करें, उसके अंदर क्या एक इंटरेक्शन होता है। जो एक्सपर्ट होता है उससे भी हम बात करते हैं, यंगस्टर से उनके अंदर भी इंटरेक्शन होता है। तो कौन किस विधा में काम कर रहा है, कौन किस शेप में काम कर रहा है, कौन टेक्निक में काम कर रहा है, इतनी चीज़ें आप एक साथ उस माहौल में देख पाते हैं। एंड इस बार का जो कैंप हुआ, मैं अपने आप व्यक्तिगत ये मानता हूँ कि पहले जितने भी कैंप हुए उससे ये कैंप बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे सेंस में डेवलप हुआ है। सभी पार्टिसिपेंट भी ने भी काम बहुत अच्छा किया। जो बाहर के एक्सपर्ट्स थे, जो जिन्होंने क्रिएट किया, देर आल्सो वेरी एक्टिव। तो टोटल मिला के देखें कि 100% अपन माने, अगर 70% में काम हो गया तो एक सीमा तो ठीक है, सक्सेस।
My background is in the sciences. I studied in industrial technology in England.
And where do you come from and your training?
Sweden. I'm a Swedish citizen. I grew up in England and I went through the English system, education system. I did O-levels, A-levels and went to university and did industrial management. Industrial management and industrial technology and management, which means the idea was to combine technology and management. Because there was a gap. Management spoke one language, the technologists and engineers spoke another. And the point of my education really was to
bind them together.
Yeah, to have a group of educated people who could speak the language of both, the language of management and the social sciences, let's say psychology, sociology. So we studied all this, and then statistics, engineering, so they could bring them together. And this is what I studied originally. So when I moved to Sweden, it was to work in a factory and do this. But then I decided very soon that it was too boring. Too boring. So in the beginning, I was teaching English to companies. I was teaching business English, technical English to Swedish companies. I was making a fantastic living, but I got bored with that. And at the age of 30, I decided I wanted to be an artist. So I went to university in Sweden and studied technical photography to become museum or hospital photographer. And I've worked in all of these areas. Technical photography in industry, museum and hospitals, photographing operations. Museum photography was the most exciting one, which I decided to do in the end. Photographing objects in a museum, making catalogs, documenting the landscape. And that's what really got me going. So I was part of a national project in Sweden to document the whole of Sweden during 1 year. So they had 19 photographers going around different areas, covering different
Documenting the whole place.
Yes. My specialization was farming and technology. Somebody else's was rubbish collection. Another one was industrial cities. And I came here because I found icons interesting.
Those colors.
Yes, and because pottery was my hobby. So in this village, I discovered that not just two, but three.
How did you discover this?
I saw a photograph in a tourist catalog.
You told me.
Yes, in a tourist catalog, and it says Dharamraj icon from the village of Molela, and I thought, wow, where's that? So I asked everyone. This was 1991, and I went around Udaipur asking people, where's Molela? And they said, nobody knew where Molela was. And one day, accidentally, someone in the tourist office says, I know where Molela is. So I came here. Anyway, but the reason I come back again and again, and the reason I came here for the first time, because this village brings together several of my interests. 1, icon. 2, pottery. 3, photography. And number 4, India. Because so much of India is also here. So and I think it's a very nice way for me. I like this kind of context. I'm not a tourist that just sits on a bus or goes on a train or a plane and goes everywhere and does this, because so many tourists are coming here as passive observers. I am not a passive observer. I like to take part. So in the beginning, I was so fascinated by this technique of pottery. You know, the firing, you saw the pot, it's beautiful. It started like that, but then moved on. Every year I came back and I became more and more interested in the meaning of these icons. And then the Bopas came, and I wanted to know where do they take these things and what do they do with them. So another year I followed them home with the translators. So the story started as a craft project and ended as ideology, religion, tradition, customs.
So a life project.
Yes. So for 22 years I've recorded, I have photographed, and it has become truly far, far too big. What I would love to do is to find someone, say, like you, who would say, this is a fantastic project, and I would say, here you are. Every year I ride on my motorbike from here to Diu Daman. Every year, because I go there for the winter to work. And I always go Udaipur, Ahmedabad, through Bhavnagar and then Diu. And so first I go from Udaipur to Ahmedabad, stay the night. And in the morning, I take this long ride to Diu, 450 kilometers. Through Bhavnagar. And I've done this every year. Several years now.
This camp?
This camp.
These 3 days?
These 3 days. of course, above all, it's this meeting. As I said, because I'm an artist. And when I meet another artist who is truly interested in what I'm doing, and I'm interested in what they're doing, then it's a meeting beyond all the usual limitations and all the usual walls that you have between people. Because already, as fellow artists, we don't believe in the importance of nationality, color, race, class. We all belong to one club, and this is our club. For 3 days, we're in the same club, and of course, that's wonderful. That's nice. That's really nice. That's definitely one thing. You know, the most important thing is to meet other people and exchange information and contacts and aesthetics and share. And of course, the food is nice.
Yes.
I like the food.
Yes.
But you know, I have an interest in just Gagan and this village, so I'm also continuing to support him. So for me, this is a way of contributing or giving back to Gagan what he has given me all these years. So to support him really. And of course, I'm interested. This is the most important.
Talk about your life first, a little about your life.
Okay. Well, I always wanted to do ceramics, but I didn't have the opportunity for many years. I was married to a sculptor, I had 4 kids, so my life was that. And then my marriage ended about nearly 20 years ago, and I got the chance to go to college in my 40s. So I went and I studied mixed craft at first, but I knew I wanted to do ceramics. So the next year I did a pottery course where I learned to throw properly. And I could have gone on to work as a production potter, but I had discovered coil building and hand building, and I preferred that. So I heard about a college in Wales that had a very good hands-on course where you could build kilns and things as well, and that's what I wanted to do, was the technical side as well. It wasn't just conceptual stuff I wanted to do. So I went to Wales and I did my first degree there in a small college in Carmarthen. And 2 of my children who were now grown up came, and one did sculpture and one did painting. So we were in a family group there. And then I taught for about 6 months in the UK, and then I got a travel bursary to go to Australia. And I was backwards and forwards a few times to Australia, and I had a studio there for a while. But then I came back to Ireland and to the town I live in now 10 years ago, and I set up a little studio, and I've been working from there ever since. And in about 2005 I got accepted in a show in Croatia, and from there all my travels have come from that trip. because I met somebody there who invited me somewhere else. I met somebody there who invited me somewhere else. So that's really basically sort of the start and how I've got to do this now. So.
And what inspires your work?
Well, I am inspired by nature really and the natural world. I take lots of photographs of rocks and things. I don't want to make rocks, or I don't want to make seashells, but I like to have things that people sort of wonder, is that a shell? Is that a seed pod?
And
What
a
is
little
it?
puzzle kind of.
Yeah, I like it to be a little ambiguous, so they're not quite sure of what I'm doing, and people seem to like the work as well, so that's nice. So yeah, it's mainly inspired by nature, but I don't want to imitate it. I just want to celebrate it.
In your way, you want to present it in your way. You want to present it in your way.
Yes, exactly. My interpretation. Yeah, exactly.
And something about this workshop you want to say?
Well, I arrived 23rd, right in the valley. So
in Diwali you were here.
yeah, I arrived right for the celebrations, and also down in Nathdwara, the celebrations there, down the temple, they're amazing things, where they chase the cows up and down the street, and then where the tribal people go in and loot the temple, that festival. So I was there, my second day in India, I was experiencing this, yeah. And I went with Gagan and his family then to visit his family another day, and the last day of the valley, and we went to another temple. So I had a real immersion into Indian culture in Rajasthan anyway. And then we started then coming to the studio. And it was very nice at the time, but there was no, I mean, it has changed so much in the last week, and it was just fun to be here for that. And I worked with the clay a bit and realised that the clay with donkey dung was quite hard to work with. And also the one from Gujarat, I found it dried so fast. My method of working, I should have been making something else in it. But the red clay I found was nice to work with.
Yeah, asking about that Nathdwara technique.
Now, yes, well, when Gagan was discussing things with me, he asked me, we were emailing, and I think he'd seen it somewhere, and he asked me would it be possible to do it. So I said, oh yeah, sure, not realising the kiln that was going to be involved. And when we went up to see the land, it was the big kiln, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be impossible. So I suggested we make the smaller kiln, well, that the men make the smaller kiln, and they did. You know, 2 days later, there's the smaller kiln, and I still, even yesterday when I was looking into it, I still wasn't sure how it was going to work. So it just happened. Intuitively, we sort of got it to work, and it was great fun. But I had learnt Nathdwara in Belarus, which is in Eastern Europe, and there they have a more controlled kiln where you can lift the lid and put it back down. That makes a big difference. Having to take the shards off, that was the bit that was the difficult part of this part. It wasn't hard to get the kiln to temperature, and then I'd learned magic in Belarus, and I started demonstrating it in Ireland, and I put some images on Facebook again. Yeah, and people started wanting to find out about it, so it's grown, and people all over the world are now doing it because it's a fun technique. It doesn't use a lot of materials, and the results are instant. And if you don't like it, you can put it back in the kiln. So that's how. So another talk, as you know, it was like how Facebook helped save Nathdwara, because most people had not heard of it. So Nathdwara means scalded. It's like scalding it in the hot pot going into the cold liquid, and you sort of scalding the liquid, I suppose. But
does the word have any meaning to it?
Well, scalded.
Scalded. Scalded,
yeah, which is, you know, well, scalding is like burning yourself, I suppose, with water. In this way, you're actually putting the hot pot into the cold liquid, but still, in Russian, it means scalded ceramic. There's slightly different meanings for some of it, and it's called slightly different things in other European countries, but for ease, I think calling it Nathdwara covers it. You know, it's an umbrella for the whole thing. The Nathdwara firing technique is about 600 years old, and it's mainly used in Eastern Europe. I learnt it when I was doing a symposium in 2009 in Belarus, and I thought this was a really interesting, quick way of getting a nice effect on simple pieces of pottery. So I discovered that you just make a mixture of yeast, flour and water, about 1 kilo of flour, 10 litres of water, about 10 grams of yeast and a tablespoon of sugar. You mix it together, you leave it for 3 days, stirring every so often, and it ferments. It bubbles up and then it gets a bit smelly. And that's when you know that it's okay. And you then bring bisque-fired work to about 800 to 900 degrees centigrade in the kiln. And then when it reaches temperature, you take it out with the tongs and you dunk it into the Nathdwara mixture, and then you dunk it straight into cold water. That stops it cooking, otherwise the piece goes black. And because you're splashing it in and splashing it in, you get this nice sort of splashed effect. And basically it's a very sort of organic finish that's more decorative than functional. And people seem to be really enjoying it all around the world now.
The effect forms that come in the work.
Yeah, they just like the pattern, that it's spontaneous and that you can't control it completely, and that it's very instant. And it works very well, especially in for group activities and stuff. And that, sorry, what?
Which is the best clay to get this?
Well, you get more contrast with a white clay, and also one that's quite strong, that will take thermal shock, because you're dipping a hot pot into cold water. So in the West we often use what's called a raku clay. It'll have some grog or chamot in it, which opens it up and makes it less likely to crack. But it worked here on the terracotta clay quite well. Maybe slightly less contrast, but I'd love to have more time to work with other clays here, each of the clays, and see which one reacted. Because there was one that we did it with that didn't seem to work on. Here, there was one of the terracotta clays didn't seem to take it very much. But the others did really well.
The one which we did there.
Yeah, the one that the little pots were in did really well. And if the chapati pots had been a little hotter and there'd been more mixture, because the first one worked really well, and that shape of the chapati pot is a really good shape for dunking in and out of the mixture. It works really well when it's hot enough. So that's basically it. Nathdwara means scalded ceramics. And through Facebook it's suddenly taken off. People really seem to be enjoying the fun of it. And also, if you don't like it, you can put it back in the kiln and it burns off and you start again. So that's really useful. You can remove it again at about 700 degrees centigrade. The pattern goes and you can redo it. So that's really good. Or if you really don't like the effect, you can just burn it off in the kiln, do a bisque firing, burn it off, and glaze it, or do whatever you want. You know, so it's really useful in that way. So I hope that's been of use.